In this video, we'll go over the 4 most important settings to adjust for professional looking footage. Let's get started with number 1, frame rate. Back when film was first made, it was extremely expensive. So early filmmakers did a series of tests to determine the fewest images that they could play in a sequence within a single second, while still maintaining the illusion of movement. They settled on 24 frames per second. Since then, this has become the standard for film. However, broadcast television, and especially sports, will use 30 frames or even 60 frames per second, which gives a much smoother motion, but to the average viewer, it looks a lot less professional. 24 frames per second is used most of the time in film, so it's what our eyes are used to. Because of this, we associate that with the filmic look, and everything else looks less natural. Number 2, shutter speed. Have you ever noticed how much choppier the footage looks on your phone, especially in really bright light? This is because of a high shutter speed. In order to film in harsh light, your phone's camera makes a duration at which each frame is captured much shorter. This results in 0 to no motion blur, and your footage looks less natural. For a natural fill, you'll want to set your shutter speed at around double whatever your frame rate is. So, for 20 frames per second, set your shutter speed at 1/48th of a second, or whatever your camera has closest to that number. In order to do this, you may need to use a neutral density filter, or an ND filter, which is basically like sunglasses for your camera, so you can lower your shutter speed. This is a variable ND filter, which gets darker as you twist it, but you can find ones with set levels of darkness as well. This brings us to number 3, white balance. All light has what's called a color temperature. This refers to how warm, or yellow, or cool, blue the light is. Color temperature is measured in Kelvin units. Indoor lights are typically around 3600 Kelvin, while sunlight clocks in at around 5600 Kelvin. When setting your white balance, you'll need to be mindful of what type of light you're filming in, and set your white balance to match that. Otherwise, you'll end up with footage that looks overly blue or overly yellow, which can be very hard to correct later. Last but not least, aperture. Each camera, even your phone's camera, has a lens, and each lens has an opening called an iris that can grow larger or smaller, letting in more light or less onto the image sensor. Some cameras do this digitally, but the concept is the same. The lower your aperture is, the wider your iris is, the more light enters. When your iris is wide open, you'll notice areas beyond the subject are more blurry. This can be helpful if you're wanting to maintain your viewer's attention on a single subject and is just more pleasing to look at. Again, to achieve this, especially in bright light, you'll need an ND filter. These aren't the only settings on a camera, but they are the most important ones to achieve a good natural look. If you're using your phone's camera, there are apps available that allow you to adjust these settings on your phone, such as Manual Camera 4 on iOS and ProCam X Lite on Android. Thanks for watching another video from Social Paragon. Be sure to comment below if you think we missed anything or if you have any questions. You can subscribe for more content if you like this video. And if you do, be sure to turn on notifications below.